Hey, well, welcome to Marriaging. I'm Ricky.
I'm Nova.
And tonight is our guest night, and we have some of the most amazing guests. They're going to change your life when you hear their story.
They've been married longer than us. They've been married for, well, we'll let them tell you.
But they just celebrated a pretty significant wedding anniversary last week, and we've invited them tonight because they are professional grandparents, professional parents. So because of their expertise, we're going to do an interview with them tonight. You'll get to know the Mannoias.
You and me, we got this. Gonna take some practice. Superpower oneness. We are marriaging. Oh, oh.
Wonder Twin Powers activate.
We are marriaging.
Mr. and Mrs. Mannoia, Kevin and Kathy.
Doctor.
It's good to be. Well, thank you.
So many titles.
We don't know
Yeah,
what
that's
to
all
call
right.
you. So I'm like, I just call him Doc now.
Yeah, that's fine. Just
Not the kind that helps people, though.
Yeah.
It's a family joke.
So tonight, I guess you need to share with our audience, how many years have you been at this?
40 years.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that. It seems like such a big number, and it's gone really fast.
Yeah, it has gone fast.
It's hard to believe it's been that long.
I mean, we've been married longer than you guys have been alive.
Well,
not quite. Did you find 25 to be as gargantuan as big?
I think it was different because 25, we were in the middle still of building family, of engaging with calling and ministry, career, work, right in the middle, in the thick of it. At this point, I mean, I don't mean to be morbid at all, but at this point, we're kind of we're on the other end of it. You know, we're kind of winding things into what's really important instead of trying to build and discover what's important. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, and as the years went by, we included our kids in the anniversary celebrations because we felt like it was a family celebration. And so it's just recently that our anniversary celebrations have been just us.
I don't think we ever had an anniversary celebration that we didn't include our children.
This is really, really key, and I'd like you both to discuss this, because this series that we're wrapping up tonight with this interview is a series that we've done on what you're leaving behind. Those who tune into Marriaging, we really challenge them to think about what you're leaving behind, or legacy, in other words. So talk about that. So you've included your children in all of your wedding anniversaries. Explain that.
Well, first of all, we wanted them to understand what a big deal it is, right? And that this is a commitment we have and we've made, and it extends beyond us, our kids, our family.
And also they're the product of this marriage. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we want them to see where they've come from, and we want them to celebrate the fountain of what brought them life is the love that God gave to us to give to each other. And in that journey, of course, one of the greatest expressions of that love is that you multiply it and you reproduce. And I don't mean just reproduce physically, but you reproduce, your image in others, and in our daughter and in our two sons, so that now, as they're getting older and as they're on their own and independent, they start looking around saying, I see more of dad and mom in what I do than I ever thought was possible. So now they're appreciating it, and now they recognize, they see my mannerisms or her mannerisms, and they recognize it. So it's the product of a marriage, right? And we are reproducing in them. And then they start coming back and they start talking to us as adults. That was a big deal, I think, for both of us to start relating to our children as adults. And that's the thing we prayed for and want. So now, when Kristen is struggling with something in her department at the hospital, she'll text me and ask me a question, and we'll have a conversation about how to shape from leadership. Or Corey's struggling with how to make whatever he's making, chicken marsala at night. He calls her and try to figure out how to cook. And, so that kind of stuff is coming coming out of them, and they begin to see us in them. So we want them to know that they are the product of this marriage.
We celebrated a lot of things.
Mhm.
Like we were always thinking of things to celebrate. We'd have a party for back to school, right? And I would come up with a verse for each of the kids for that year, one that I felt like God had placed on my heart, and we'd have a party and we'd celebrate the beginning of school with, you know, this is what God can do in your life this year, and just sort of a challenge and a blessing. So
That's good.
so yeah, so we've just really made a big deal about all of those things, and birthdays, you name it, we make a big deal about it.
Yeah, Kathy's pretty amazing when it comes to celebrating, especially birthdays, because each of the children were given a special birthday celebration, mostly with just family, occasionally with friends, but mostly family, and everybody, that's sacrosanct. We all come to each other's birthdays, and she specially decorates a cake and decorates the room, and it's all matching, and the kids now notice that, and they notice the extra effort on the cake. And
I am off the hook now, officially.
You are? Who did you hand it off to? Who does it?
Spouses.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're responsible for their own kids' birthdays.
Yeah.
So.
Beautiful. You really, I mean, that is something you're leaving to your kids. You've left them and they've taken it.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
Early on, we made the decision that in what we do, because we're in ministry, in what we do, a lot of people said, keep a firewall between your children and your family and your ministry. And we decided early on that's not what we want to do. We want our kids to see what we do. We want our kids to experience it so that they don't see ministry as something that God is using to take their parents away from them. And so we would take them with us. They would go to the churches where I would be speaking. We would travel up and down the West Coast. Instead of me flying up and doing something, I would take the kids and we would have fun, and she would plan special trips and outings along the way so that they saw ministry as this really great perk, right? Man, look what we get to do. We get to go overseas. We get to go to these special places because of ministry. So
and
they
meet
see
amazing people.
and meet some pretty amazing people. Yeah, because of ministry. And so we wanted our kids to participate in that so that there was no bitterness, there was no animosity. They embrace the joy of ministry and understand the nature of the church as being whole. So yeah, I think we made that decision early on. And I mean, for Kathy, we would read books together. That's another one. She'd read out loud in the car when we'd be driving at night, or late at night we'd all gather in one of the bedrooms and she'd read a book, Where the Red Fern Grows, or whatever the books are, and piles of children's books that we would read. So those were important pieces. And nighttime rituals, that would be another thing, right?
Oh, that's good.
Nighttime rituals. And frankly, there were times when I would catch myself saying, I got too much to do. Maybe I can not put one of the kids to bed. And then I would also remind myself, no, this time is going to pass all too quickly. Take advantage of it while it's here. So, lay down in each of their beds and tell them a story and sing them songs and pray and to each of them. And so they have stories now that stories that I made up, and so now they're talking about, the boys talk about Kristen missed out on the octospiders, because that was a series of about 2 months of a story that I told them about octospiders. And I have no idea what the story's about. I had no idea what it would be about the next night, but I just told them for a whole month. I'd tell them stories about what was going on with octospiders. And they remember those. They remember the songs, they remember the books, they remember the time together and all of that. So
wow. So I love that you made up stories, and I love that you guys are partiers.
Totally.
The Mannoias are like people after our own hearts,
Yes,
man.
yes.
Now, do your kids tell their story. You have 2 sons and a daughter?
And a daughter.
Our oldest is a daughter, and then the next 2 are boys.
Boy, okay.
Kristen has 2 girls, and she makes up stories for her daughter. And actually, her husband, they put a globe by their daughter's bed. They spin the globe, and wherever the finger lands, he makes up a story for her about that place.
Yeah.
The story has that place in it. So,
Wow.
I love that so much.
Yeah. And she, like, if I'm there, because they both work nights sometimes and I go to take care of them, and she wants me to make up a story. Sometimes it's a scary story. Grandma, tell me a scary story.
Yeah.
Last time she said that, I said, but aren't you going to be afraid and have bad dreams? She said, no, it's going to make me brave in my dreams. I'm like,
Wow.
okay,
Wow.
that's awesome.
Confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more challenging with grandchildren because you're not with them all the time. And so, you want your kids to create memories, but you also want to, that's part of why I retired, because I want to teach my grandkids about Jesus. I want it to be a part of their lives when I'm there.
Yes.
So one of the things that I actually came up with 2 Christmases ago, our granddaughter was 2.5. She was just fascinated with the little nativity sets at Christmas time. And I thought, how do I make this story like come alive? How do I make like Jesus a real baby, So I found a little nativity play online, and I grabbed a bunch of bathrobes and stuff. And on Christmas morning, they were all here. And I said, okay, you guys go to your bedrooms and you have to put on the clothes that are on the bed. They had no idea what was happening. And they came down and we did the play for Maya. And, I had enough to do Mary and Joseph, and I made a manger out of a cardboard box, and we had a doll baby Jesus.
Right here, right behind us. That's where it took
Yep.
place.
And later in the afternoon, I came out in the living room, and there was Maya holding baby Jesus right by that cradle.
Oh.
It was the most awesome thing.
Oh my
So we did it last year too.
Yeah, so she remembers that. She comes over and she looks for the manger. And of course, as long we had it there for the whole year, she'd come over and check on Jesus, make sure he's okay. So
Ultimate grandparents. Just, oh my goodness, you're ultimate.
Well, my goal is that eventually the grandkids will be the characters in the story. I don't want to stop this. I want it, the story can just get a little fuller, have more detail, be a little richer. Yeah. My son-in-law came down with his shepherd's bathrobe on and the belt around his head. He looked like a ninja shepherd. But whatever.
Yeah.
Wait, what character did Kevin play? Out of curiosity.
What was I?
He was the narrator last year. The year before, he was a shepherd.
Yeah.
You're the shoe-in narrator, though.
Yeah, right.
I didn't trust.
I talk too much.
I didn't trust him with it the first year, so I was the narrator. Last year he was allowed.
Thought I'd get a little preachy. So yeah. No, there are lots of things like that, and we try to make everything personalized for our children. And now our kids are making them for like each of my kids has a song that I made up for them, and they know that song. And they know that I'll use the same tune, but I make up different words now for each of the grandkids. And so they know that, and they recognize it, and they think about it for their kids. Wow. And so we've taken them with us to places. We sing songs, special songs. And it's another way that we've taught them, our children, the hymns of the faith, the old hymns.
Yeah.
Because they don't get it in church. So even at nighttime, rather than singing lullabies, I'll just sing them old hymns of the church so that they hear it. And we did Bible memorization when they were youngsters.
Oh yeah, they had summer assignment. Had to memorize scripture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually they had to
project.
Do some sort of a project, read
a
book or whatever.
Project, memorize
and
scripture.
then if they completed their goals for the summer, then we would go somewhere fun.
Wow. Legoland or something like that.
SeaWorld
just
or
so that they knew
whatever.
they earned it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So our kids they're the people we most enjoy spending time with. So now it's very interesting that we're talking to you guys right now, because actually today, and I don't want to, not to be morbid at all, but today we just signed a whole bunch of documents right here. That's our will, our last will and testament, our revocable trust, all of that stuff that is kind of representing that next legacy and that next generation. And one of the things we also did when we were able to is we identified a place that we wanted to get. When my parents died and her parents died, they left us a little bit of money. So rather than buy a new car, remodel the kitchen, we decided we want to put that into a place where we will enjoy gathering, and our children will enjoy gathering, and our grandchildren will enjoy gathering. So when we bought the cabin, with that large help from our parents, both of our parents, we told them that's what this is about.
Wow.
So even in these documents, we've said, you can sell anything else, but that house we'd like you to keep, because we'd like for you, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren to have a place to gather where memories are made. And already, Daniel proposed to Kristen up there. Christopher took Victoria up there, and that's where he proposed to her. Corey found himself, when he was kind of looking for himself, he found himself there. And now Maya, that's one of her favorite places to go.
But there are a lot of other things you can do.
Yeah.
Like, for us, a big deal was having dinner together
every
night.
Wow.
Yeah, we had dinner together every night. It's where
sacred.
Your kids learn to communicate there. It's a safe place to talk about how you're feeling, or if you have questions, or had a rotten day. Those are the people that are going to care that you had a rotten day and, try to cheer you up. But dinner was a big, important deal for us.
You guys, I'm just so blown away by the thoughtfulness that you have put into all the moments of your life. Like, we always tell our kids, treasure the moments, because the moments make a life. And you two are so incredibly inspiring. Like, how did you do that with, like, both of you working, and, like, was it just different seasons, or?
Well, yeah, I didn't go back to work until our youngest went to kindergarten.
Oh.
And then I worked in the mornings at their school. So I was a reading teacher. And so I would go to school with them. I'd get a couple hours in the afternoon on my own and then get them back. But so I felt blessed in that way. And I think part of why we made a big deal about stuff maybe was because we didn't have a lot of resources. Like, God provided for us, but we didn't have money to go, take the kids to Disneyland for big vacations or any kind of that kind of stuff. But we didn't need that to be together and have fun and create memories. So
Priority choices. When you don't need a lot of money and a lot of income to make life valuable and to make family valuable and strong. So if you make priority choices with what you have, and at any level you can do that. You really can.
Kathy, you were teaching reading, and then you just told us that you used to read to your children in the car. So it wasn't just something you did, and then you did it for a paycheck and you came home. It was a passion of yours, and it just so happened that you got paid for it. And do you feel like your children now do things that they're passionate about for a living? Have you seen that filter into their choices?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
For
no
sure.
doubt about it.
I don't think that my boys would say they enjoyed their education.
At about sophomore in college, both of the boys sort of said, "Why am I doing this again?" And it's like pulling teeth to get them to finish college, right? That's the book that nobody really has written yet, How to Be Parents of Adult Children. But anyway, go ahead.
That's something they don't tell you when you're having kids.
They love what they're doing. All of them love what they're, and frankly, Kristen discovered her calling when she was with me on an international trip in a third world country, and that's where God got a hold of her heart. And
wow.
Christopher began to discover his, I think, through high school and college, and Corey discovered his passion with cars as a high schooler and then in college. So You know, and we try to nurture that as much as we can. But it's not that they were without their struggles. I mean, I'd get really frustrated with Kristen wanting to wear boy clothes all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she, you know, it's like, what? You know, you're a beautiful girl. Why do you wear boy clothes all the time? You know, the rebellious stage, right?
Yeah.
So, but we navigate that stuff when there's trust, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest, reading, I mean, she still reads to me in the car. We're in the middle of a book called The Book of Hours. We're about 4 chapters in. So whenever we're in the car, she reads to me. So
It's fun. We read fun stuff.
I'm taking notes on the things that you shared tonight.
we're just amazed by the children that God gave us. They are just absolutely wonderful.
And it's not like we read all these books about parenting.
No.
I mean, it's not that there's anything wrong with it. I personally felt really strongly that I should know my kids better than anybody else.
Yeah.
And that they aren't a formula. They can't be. I need to get to know each of them as individuals, and that they may be treated a little differently, you know. But I think God just gave us wisdom and protected our relationships with our kids, and gave us insights when we needed them. And I mean, it's not like we were super parents or anything. It's just, I think God was a part of our family, and He just protected all that.
This interesting question that we asked each other last week, and we asked the question: if you could go back to your newly married self, what would be the greatest advice that you would give that newly married?
Wow.
The 40 years ago, Kathy, and the 40 years ago, Kevin, and you're sitting down for coffee, what do you say?
With yourself, what do you say to that girl or that young man?
This is kind of speaks to my personality. I would tell myself that I don't have to be perfect for Him to love me.
Yeah.
I don't have to do a bunch of stuff or be a certain way for Him to love me.
Yeah.
Wow.
That took a while to figure that out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm crying with you now, so I'm like, yeah. That's beautiful. I think a lot of young women that even watch this that are, just newly married, that is wise advice. It's like, you don't have to perform. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think our personalities are different enough that I was always the go kind of high achiever, and that probably created undue pressure on her. And so she had to struggle through some of that to discover what love is all about. And conversely, I had to discover, and I would say something similar to that. I guess I would say that achievement is not the definition of love. And that love is something that transcends or undergirds anything you do. People will remember you because you love them, and you will form legacy out of loving your spouse and loving your children and loving your grandchildren, no matter your achievement.
And no matter their performance.
And no matter their performance, at the end of the day, they sense whether you love them or not. And my mother used to tell us both, I think, because we feel like we had great parents, both of us. And she was the same way. She didn't have a silver bullet for parenting. She just said, just kill them with love, and your love will guide you, and it will give you insight and intuition. And God will, when you're committed in a posture of love, God will give you the intuition to know what the right thing to do. Did we make mistakes? Absolutely we did, but so does everybody. And that's the beauty of children who receive deep, authentic love. They're very forgiving. They forgive you for that.
We like to also, beyond just give our listening audience something to kind of chew on, we like to give them an action step. So we call it homework. And so in every one of our episodes, we have what we call homework time. So if you were to provide homework for the marriaging community, what would you say is like one or two things that you would say, you know what, y'all need to try this, and this is going to really enhance your marriage? What would that be?
Dinner together every night in a week.
I knew it. I would agree.
I just can't stress how important that is.
Yeah.
I mean, the younger kids benefit from the older kids in a lot of ways. Vocabulary. Your vocabulary is built around the dinner table, where you hear big words that you don't understand and you can ask questions, or, I mean, learning to express yourself, emotions. I mean, sharing your day. I can't think of another thing that would be better than just challenge yourself to have dinner together every single night of the week and literally sit down, don't race off, just spend time together.
No cell phones.
How does that look for people who've never really practiced eating together?
Yeah, well, we set the table for one thing. So everybody's got their spot, and you bring the food and you sit it down, and everybody comes and sits down, and you pray and you thank God for the food, and then we just pass and we'd start talking, and it was one person at a time. It wasn't chaos. No burping.
Yeah, no burping.
Don't talk with your mouth full.
Don't talk with your mouth full. Yeah, no. It starts even before the meal. I mean, I guess I would say it starts by thinking about it and planning it. So Kathy had to plan dinners. Occasionally I might help her. If she told me something to do, I would do it. But you got to plan it, and it doesn't have to be fancy. It might be a Kraft macaroni and cheese. It might even be pizza ordered in. But you got to plan it, and then
the kids helped too.
And the kids
had to help set the table.
We put a plate at each place, and you put a knife and a spoon and a fork or whatever you're going to need, and they now know how to set a table. They know how to set a formal table. They know which direction the knife is supposed to be facing, and those kinds of things. You set the table, and then you put the food on the table in bowls or on a platter or whatever it is, with serving spoons, so that it's not go to the kitchen, grab your food, and come out. It's no, the food's on the table. We all sit down together. We hold hands. We always hold hands. Always, always, always to this day. We hold hands when we pray around the dinner table, and we thank God for the blessing in one another. And then we pass the food around. We don't just reach, we pass the food. And for me, often Kathy would put the main dish near me, and I would pick it up, and I would always start with Kristen. She's our oldest, and I would always start with her, and I would hand her the bowl, and I'd hand her the serving spoon. She was always on my left, because we always had a place where the kids, they knew where they sat. I mean, it sounds like a military academy, but it's not. It really isn't. They just like to sit there. And so I'd pass it to her, and she would pass it on around, to Kathy, and then to Corey, and then to Christopher, and back to me, and then I'd take some. So we passed it, and then we all start eating and
talking about our days.
How'd it go? She would ask questions, I would ask questions. Yeah.
I think just the thing that you need to make sure to do is protect it and make it a safe place, so the kids aren't laughing at each other if, in expressing an emotion or a frustration or something that happened in the day. A lot of times we had really funny stories. My daughter was great at imitating some of her high school teachers. And we would just howl with laughter as she imitated something they had done during one of the classes that day. But it needs to be a safe place. Yep. They need to be able to share and be honest and know that it's going to be accepted and taken seriously.
We're ones who believe that when you establish a routine and discipline in the home, and when you establish rituals in the home, those are the things that kids need as a basis for their security for the rest of their life. So those rituals I guess I would say, in answer to your earlier question, what would you advise? Find one thing that becomes a ritual, and that ritual might be dinner. It might be reading a book, one chapter of a book once a week with the whole family sitting in the living room. But find a ritual and make it a disciplined part, because children, and even I need the discipline of rituals. That's how we build security.
It could even be like a walk and talk, you
Yeah.
know? Just grab your son and you go for a walk on every Wednesday night or whatever, and you just talk. Or, I mean, it doesn't have to be, you know, some big fancy thing that takes a lot of time to put together.
That you've made that abundantly clear, like you guys, your family is a family unit, and you know, it's like I have this picture of you guys, just here you are, all of you, and it's like just moving together. But it's a really beautiful picture of, you know, really what this world is really longing for. That, you know, we learn that security in our homes. We learn the security in our home. And I just want to thank both of you for sharing so many incredible nuggets and so much wisdom, and you know, the little things that you have done have built such an incredible legacy for your kids that ends up being this full table of food. You know, if we were talking about
that's the
really
prayer.
As listening to you, I'm like, wow, that's a full meal deal right there, and your children have gotten to eat of that wisdom, and so excited for your future and your grandbabies and all the Christmases to come and the Advents, and
Thank you.
we are so excited for you and really blessed by your testimony and just the longevity and the wisdom that you carry. Thank you.
Thank you.
For
Joy gets better every year.
Thank you. Yeah, it does, right?
Yeah.
More to look
Better
forward
every year. Absolutely.
But your story and your testimony, your direction tonight is going to change some. It's going to change some families.
That would be awesome.
Thank you. We're honored.
We do say that, you know, marriage isn't just something, you know, you sign on the dotted line, but we call it marriaging because it's this continual process. And we say that marriaging is, we create atmospheres in our home with the Lord. And that's really what marriaging is all about, creating these atmospheres and changing the environment in your home, and really knowing that you can, it's possible, no matter where you've come from.
Right.
Yep, that's
For
absolutely
sure.
right. Well, thank you so much. We're honored. We're really honored.
Both.
Thank you both.
Yeah,
we pray that you will become part of our marriaging community.
That's right.
Oh yeah, well we will. We'll look forward to getting onto that and watching it. Yeah, absolutely. It's
This
wonderful.
is how we bait you in.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to share it with others too, because as you know, there are a lot of young couples that need it.
Yes.
So yeah.
Well, God bless you
God bless
both.
you.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you guys.
God bless you.
We'll talk
Forward to
soon.
seeing you again.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We are marriaging.